24 hours after Wyndham Clark lifted the U.S. Open trophy at Shinnecock Hills, an active PGA Tour caddy went public and accused him of cheating. Not a fan, not an anonymous account, a working professional inside the tour, by name, on the record, and the tour's response was silence. What makes this genuinely uncomfortable is that this wasn't the first time something surfaced around Clark. Every single time it did, the outcome was identical. Cleared, no explanation, no transparency. And now players inside the ropes are done staying quiet about it. Here's what I want to know before we get into the full story. Do you think a U.S. Open trophy should silence every question that came before it? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And if you're here for coverage that goes beyond the official statements, subscribe, because what we're breaking down today is something tour officials are actively hoping stays buried. Clark spent 5 years grinding on the PGA Tour without a single win, 134 starts before he broke through. That kind of career builds a particular type of player, hungry, emotionally raw, and carrying everything on the inside. Then 2023 happened. Wells Fargo Championship in May. U.S. Open in June, back-to-back. Overnight, he went from journeyman to major champion, and the Golden Boy narrative was written for him instantly. But underneath that narrative, Clark himself admitted something most champions never say out loud. He'd been in therapy since early 2023, specifically for anger management, volatile, under pressure, his own words. That honesty made people root for him until 2025, when the anger stopped being private. He destroyed signage at the PGA Championship. Then at Oakmont, he damaged the locker room after missing the cut and was banned from the property entirely. That's the player at the center of this story. And that pattern of behavior is exactly what makes everything that follows impossible to ignore. A player with anger management issues and a ban from a golf course is one thing, but what started emerging on the course, during tournaments, on camera, in real time, is what turned frustration into something much harder to dismiss. It started at the 2024 Arnold Palmer Invitational. Footage surfaced showing Clark pressing his club into the thick rough directly behind his ball on the 18th hole. The optics were immediate and damaging. It looked like he was improving his lie before the shot. Golf Channel's Brandel Chambly didn't hedge. He said on air that the ball moved, that Clark didn't ground the club lightly, and that a penalty should have been given. A respected analyst and former tour pro, he's not a fan account, not speculation. The tour's rules committee reviewed it and cleared Clark. No detailed explanation. Just cleared. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 12 months later, same tournament, different heat, controversy. This time a drop on the third fairway. An embedded ball relief that immediately split the internet. Social media labeled him a cheater within minutes. Videos started circulating, and then quietly, some of that footage disappeared from public platforms entirely. The tour cleared him again. 2 tournaments, 2 controversies, 2 identical outcomes with zero public transparency about how those decisions were actually reached. Chambly's frustration never went away because the question he raised in 2024 was never genuinely answered. It was just closed. And when you bury a question instead of answering it, it doesn't disappear. It waits, because what happened next, at Shinnecock Hills in June 2026, made everything that came before it look like a warm-up. 2 clearances with no explanation is a pattern, but the reason the tour can keep doing it without consequence, that's the part nobody is talking about. The PGA Tour Rules Committee is entirely self-governing. No outside appeal process, no independent review. When they make a ruling, that ruling is final, and they are under no obligation to explain publicly how they reached it. That structure alone should raise eyebrows. But there is something deeper buried inside the rulebook itself. Rule 20.2c. It states that if video evidence captures something that couldn't reasonably have been detected by the naked eye, that footage can be legally disregarded, even if it clearly shows a breach. Read that again. Video evidence of a potential rules violation can be thrown out by the same body conducting the review with no outside oversight. So when footage surfaces, gets reviewed internally, And Clark walks away clean, so the tour isn't necessarily saying nothing happened. They're saying that don't have to act on what the camera showed. That's not a loophole. That's a door left deliberately open. And the players watching this from inside the ropes know exactly what that door means and who it stays open for. And that's exactly what's making players furious right now. If you've been following this tour for any length of time and something about this feels deeply wrong to you, you're not imagining it. Drop a comment below and tell me, does the tour have a transparency problem? And if you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. Because where this goes next is the part officials are most desperate to keep quiet. Then 24 hours later, an active PGA Tour caddy posted footage from inside the championship and accused Clark of cheating publicly by name. The footage showed Clark in thick fescue rough rehearsing practice swings, then stepping directly behind his ball and pressing down the grass before playing his shot. A USGA official was present the entire time. Clark was cleared, but that wasn't even the moment that broke everything open. During the third round, cameras caught Clark's relief drop on the 17th hole. Fans watching live immediately questioned whether the ball was released from his knee or his shin, a distinction that determines whether the drop was legal. The clip spread within minutes. The USGA reviewed it. Clark was cleared. Again, a two-time U.S. Open champion cleared twice inside the same tournament. And the players watching from inside those ropes, they didn't forget it. They didn't move on. Golf is the only sport in the world where players call penalties on themselves. No referee standing over you. No video review requested by a coach. Just you, the rules, and your own conscience. That's not just tradition. That's the entire foundation the sport is built on. So when one player walks away clean from the same situation multiple times, while every other player on tour is held to that honor system without exception, the locker room notices. Doesn't forget. Brandel Chambly said publicly what players were saying privately. An active caddy put his name on it. And the broader silence from players wasn't comfort or acceptance. It was the kind of quiet that builds behind closed doors when people feel the system they're competing inside isn't operating the same way for everyone. One rule, one standard, applied differently depending on who's holding the trophy. That's what's sitting inside tour locker rooms right now. And no official statement has come close to addressing it. But here's where honesty matters. Because if we dismiss Clark without looking at the other side, we're doing exactly what we're accusing the tour of doing. Clark has been officially cleared every single time. Not by a friend, not by a sponsor, by the governing body with the authority and the rule book to make that call. The rules of golf are genuinely complex. So situations that look damning on a phone screen often look completely different when reviewed against the actual written rule. And Clark himself has never hidden from his mistakes off the course. He paid Oakmont's damages. He completed counseling. He stood in front of cameras and called his own behavior indefensible. That's not someone operating without a conscience. But here's the problem with that defense, and it's the one the tour cannot answer cleanly. Being cleared by a self-governing body with no outside oversight and no obligation to explain its decisions publicly is not the same as being innocent. Right now, those two things are being treated as identical. The question was never really whether Wyndham Clark cheated. The question is whether the system reviewing him is transparent enough to be trusted. And right now, the answer to that is visibly, demonstrably no. When an active caddy goes public, when a respected analyst repeatedly goes on record, when players simmer in silence because speaking out feels professionally dangerous, and the institutional response across 3 separate incidents spanning 3 years is identical silence, that silence stops being a coincidence. It becomes a policy, and it doesn't exist in isolation. This is the same tour currently laying off staff, restructuring its entire schedule, and asking players to trust a leadership that hasn't ratified a single formal plan. The trust deficit was already there. Clark didn't create it, but every cleared incident with no public explanation widens it. The hardest question nobody at Tour HQ will answer out loud is this. If these exact same incidents happen to a player without 2 U.S. Open trophies and commercial value to the tour, would the outcome have been identical? The PGA Tour doesn't have a Wyndham Clark problem. It has a credibility problem, and Clark is just the most visible crack in the wall. We opened this video asking whether a U.S. Open trophy silences every question that came before it. You've now seen the full picture. 3 incidents, 3 clearances, 0 public explanation, and a governing body with a rule book that legally allows it to look the other way. You decide what that means. One question for the comments. Do you think the tour cleared Clark because he was innocent or because it was convenient? 2 options. Drop it below right now if this is the kind of coverage that brought you here today. No filler, no official talking points, just the full story. Subscribe because this isn't finished. Next, the Sam Burns-Oakmont incident. A player denied relief while tied for the lead at the U.S. Open. A ruling that sparked immediate outrage and a tour response that follows the exact same pattern you just watched. That video is coming. Make sure you're here for it.